So it seems that some people prefer the dinner than the presentation. And I hope everything goes well here. And I'm going to start with the pig learning part. And this part is prepared by me and Professor Judy Q. First, we will go to the simple introduction of the pig learning system. The pig learning is a framework that uses to analyze large-scale unstructured and semi-structured data and run on top of Hadoop cluster. It consists of two components. The first is the pig engine. The second is the pig learning programming interface. And the pig engine is a compiler and a runtime that uses to parse and compile, change these pig learning statements into MapReduce job and run on top of Hadoop cluster. The pig learning language is a high-level language for the pig engine system. It is explicitly declarative, SQL-like language, and you will see in the later writing pig learning application is very simple. And here is this chart. The left column of this chart is the pig learning statements, and the right column of this chart is the logic execution point of some pig learning statements, and these statements will be get optimized and run on Hadoop cluster. The main motivation of using pig learning technology is pretty simple, that is used to accelerate the development. You will see in later, writing pig learning application is very simple. For some applications, it is as simple as writing a set of SQL queries, and for complex cases, the developers can integrate a user-defined function inside of pig learning statements. And in addition, you can also write some Python scripts and embed some pig learning statements inside of it. So this is some advanced feature of pig. And here is an example to show this motivation of using pig learning. This example is to find the top 5 words with most high frequency. And you will see later that the program to find the top 5 words with pig learning statements just cost 10 code lines, while the Java MapReduce version is cost 200 lines. And it will take only 15 minutes in pig learning, while the Java MapReduce version will take about 4 hours. So the goal of use pig learning technology is to accelerate the programming, and this is one of our main purpose to introduce this kind of technology to the students. And here is the word count using the MapReduce. You can see that to implement the word count application, you have to implement a map and the reduce function, where the basic idea Professor Chardon have already introduced in previous session. And here is the word count using the pig learning statements. You can see that it just costs 4 code lines to implement the word count applications, while you can use another additional pig learning statements to implement the order and pick up the top 5 words with the high frequency. And all this stuff is done within 7 code lines. So this is very concise and easier. So we have shown that the programmability of pig learning system is very good. Then how about the performance? There is a project named Pig Mix, which consists of a set of pig learning statements that used to evaluate the performance comparison with the Java MapReduce implementation. And this kind of pig statements consists of some scripts that use to evaluate the scalability and the latency as well. And you will see that in the earlier version of pig, the performance of pig learning system is not as good as the Java MapReduce technology, while the latest version, the pig learning technology is even a little faster than the Java MapReduce technology. The reason is that the pig engine system, the compiler, can parse and optimize and compile optimized pig learning statements, change to the optimized job execution flow. And for example, the pig engine can parse the pig learning statements and remove some data redundancy before it do the join operation between two tables, and this can use to decrease the computational amount of specific task, especially the join task. So this is why the reason peak-loading technology can be even faster than the Java MapReduce technology, because it can explore the correlation between the peak-loading statements. Here's other peak highlights in addition to the programmability and the performance. First one is the UDF. It can be written to take advantage of compiler. If the UDF satisfies the associative and the commutative rules, this kind of computation can be done in parallel in Hadoop cluster. And it also provides 4 types of join implementations. And the third highlight feature is writing load store function is easy once input format and output format exist. This is similar to Hadoop and HBase. There is some system embedded input and output format, so you can deal with this kind of input conveniently without repeat the work. And there's some features. Then we come to the background. Who uses peak loading and for what? Usually, there's other high-level language like Pig and Hive. The difference between them is that the Pig plus Hadoop prefer to process the data stored in the disk, while the Hive and the HBase prefer to process the data stored in the memory. As you know, the disk capacity and space is much larger than the memory. Last, the Pig technology is usually used for some commercial companies to process large-scale input data sets. And about 70% of production job at Yahoo is processed by the Pig technology. And there are also some other commercial companies like Twitter, LinkedIn, Igpay, and AOL use Pig technology to process applications, including the processing web logs, build user behavior model, process images, build mappers of the map, and can be used to calculate the page rank, and do the research on large data sets. Okay, here we come to the Pig hands-on. We will first introduce assessing Pig, and then we will deliver 2 samples, the word count and the k-means clustering. In the first example, we will go through basic Pig knowledge, include the data type, operation, and how to run Pig scripts. And in the second example, we will go through some advanced feature in Pig loading, including the Pig embedding API technology and the user-defined function technology. And how to assess Pig. There is a couple of ways to assess Pig framework. First is the batch mode. You can submit Pig loading statements as a batch job. It's similar to QSub in the PBS system. The other approach is the iterative one, that you can submit the Pig loading statements line by line and get a result immediately. It also provides some third-party programming language interface that user can make programs to describe more complex business flow with Pig API. It also provides 2 execution modes. One is the local mode. It's basically run the Pig loading statements in a standalone machine, and this is very convenient for the debugging purpose. The second is the MapReduce mode. It is usually compile the Pig loading statements and run on the Hadoop cluster. This is a very practical model.